we on? Yes, we're on. Hello, guys. You know, I feel a little dumb here about video, the way I've done my videos in the past. I think this is going to work out a little bit better. Get a little bit of better view, maybe be able to see it on TV. We'll see. We'll see. But I thought I'd jump on here as well and give you a little quick reminder, some ideas on materials that you can get on hand for the next paint project that you want to watch and learn from. These are some of the ones that I've already done. This was a quick and easy one, and it teaches you how to shade. So if you're just starting out and you see this video before you see all the rest of them, go check this one out. This one will show you how to shade, how to apply font to your painting or picture or sign, and it's a simple project. This one here is the leaf project, and it's basically just showing you how with a little blending technique, a little technique with drawing out your painting, that you can get close to realistic. Okay, this one here, just another fun project. It's like I was telling a friend the other day, I had candy corn on my brain. Living here in Texas, we start looking forward to autumn about July to August. This is another fun project. It taught you how to shade, how to highlight, how to blend, and seriously wanted to put a decent sized crow on here, but I chose not to at that point because I figured most of y'all may not have a program on your computer that you could, you know, find a picture of a crow and print it out and use that print as a pattern. So I did an easy blackbird, and so it worked out. It's cute. It'll hang nicely on someone's front door, or you can put holes in it and decorate the top with the greenery, hanging in the kitchen. All right. This one I just recently did. It was showing you a technique of the background, how you could do a new background. You don't always have to just paint it solid. You can play around with your colors of acrylic paints and come up with some unique backgrounds. One of my favorite backgrounds ever, forever will be my favorite, and that's a pour paint background. That's a whole nother story. Maybe we'll get to that one day, I don't know. This painting here is a little bit more difficult, but taking your time, you'll master it. And that's the blending and shading of these small areas. And then of course applying font. In this case was a word that's in a scripture of John 15:4. And it was suggested by a friend of mine. And I thought it was perfect. Okay, now to give you some, let's say, quick little tips here. So far, if you've watched all of my videos by now, you figured out that I love the liner brush, or what is sometimes called a script liner or a mid liner. These are brushes that are very, very small, and they might be a little bit intimidating, or they may wax old your patience. But that's, you know, the time that you're allowed to set aside and turn off the world and just sit down and enjoy painting something. That's where, you know, you're not rushed. So using small brushes just reminds you, hey, I'm taking this slow and easy. These brushes come in handy doing vines, doing the twirly twig things, skinny branches on trees, real tiny limbs on trees. switches is what we called those when we were kids. Okay, that's another story. But they also come in handy for when you're applying a word or scripture to a board, sentences, a saying. They really come in handy filling that in. So that's that brush. Now, more of my favorites when I'm doing small projects like those. I love the round brushes. This is a 5. I wish it said it on here, but it doesn't. I believe it is a number 5 round, and this should be a number 3 round, about the size. All right. Now I have a filbert. It's called a filbert brush, and it's a very sturdy brush. It's very strong. I love this brush. It's great for what I like to do when I'm doing a background and I'm blending all the colors together. This comes in handy. It's very, very sturdy. Like I said, it's a strong brush. You're not going to break those bristles down anytime soon. A 1-inch brush. These are excellent to do a background when you just want to, let's just paint it solid. Or if you want to blend 2 or 3 colors in on a background, this number 1-inch brush will come in handy. Some of my favorite brushes are by Papillon, Lowe, Cornell. There's a few others that are fabulous. American Painter. I don't know if you can still get those or not. I've had these for a very long time, but American Painter, they're very good brushes as well. So to me, you can't go wrong to do some of my projects. You can look at all those videos and see that I'm using a 1-inch brush, the filbert brush, these thin script brushes or mid-liner brushes, or sometimes they're just called liner brushes. They can be as small as like a 10.0. I prefer the ones that are the size of a number 2 or number 3. So that helps you there maybe. And then the round brushes. Comes in handy to have an old toothbrush. This is when we want to just add a little extra to some fun sign and do some splattering with the paint. Old scruffy brushes. Now if you're brand new to painting, you don't have an old scruffy brush yet, but save them. When the brushes get bad, in other words, they're not holding their form anymore when you paint, they're split. These brushes come in handy to stir your paint when you're mixing colors. They come in handy for what I call dancing or blending the colors together. Like for instance, when I was blending this light green to the dark green, this brush came in handy. And you just barely tap while the paint is wet and you blend your colors together. That way you don't see any perfect line between the dark and the light. Blending and shading, these things come in handy. And this brush, it's still a very good brush. It's lost its shape, but it's a great brush to do some blending with. So you need blender brushes, at least 1 or 2. And the reason I say that is it's great to have a small one like this. I use this one as a blender brush. It's not terribly messed up yet, but it's so small. And let me see here. It is a number 4 round by American Painter. So it's a pretty small brush. But it comes in handy blending small areas. For instance, the grapes. Blending small areas like this comes in handy because you can just tap, 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 get the two colors married together, and they look nice. All right, what else? Number 2, pencil. Pencils always come in handy. A stylus, that's another thing that comes in handy. It's called a stylus. You don't have to have it, but the reason I use it is, one, when you have these wonderful paint bottles and they have that plastic, you could just use the skinny end of that stylus and break that plastic off really easy. I like that. Used it for years like that. The other thing is if I want to make some type of dots, the stylus is metal. It's metal all the way right here, and at the very end it's got a metal ball. Now it's a stationary ball, it's just the metal is round right there. Same thing at that opposite end, it's even smaller. But these do come in handy for, let's say if you were, well, let's see, when, like the bird's eye, I just did a dot of, which you can also use at the end of your paintbrush to make a bird's eye. It was solid white, and then I put a little black on it. But you can dab your end handle in paint and make a dot. It's perfect on a crafty project like this. Same thing with the stylus. You can make a small dot. Alright. The other things that you will need will be what's called Scotch tape, magic tape. That always comes in handy. So when we get to doing, let's say, a board with 3 or 4 lines of words, sometimes I'll use tape to tape off an area so I can get a perfect straight line. And I strongly suggest, I like painter's tape and all the blue tape and all those. They come in handy. And if that's what you like to work with, that's great. But this is Scotch Magic tape. It's been around for years. It is almost perfect as far as I'm concerned. When you're taping off something and you want that perfect line and you don't want to bleed through of paint, this tape really does work. And what's so cool about it, it doesn't leave that gooey texture on your board or on your painted surface. You just got to be sure when you are taping off something that you rub your finger across that tape, make sure it gets a really good seal. Okay, the other thing would be if you had a program on your computer that would come in handy where you can make your own pattern. In other words, you want, let's say, like on my grape painting, I wanted to put this word abide in the scripture reference, John 15:4. Well, I could have I have done freehand painting on words on rocks mainly, on some signs, when it didn't matter as much to have it perfectly straight. But when, for whatever reason, it matters, I want to use a pattern so I can get the words on that surface straight or looking unique. I mean, look at these different fonts here. My program has, quite a few. I don't know, maybe 60 or 70 different styles of font that I can choose from. Okay, so if you do have a program that you can print out a pattern of words, or let's say you want to do a butterfly, which we should be doing here pretty soon. Well, the shape of a butterfly is not always easy to get the same exact shape on the right as the left. And you'll find that on most projects when you're trying to get it just about right. Doesn't have to be perfect, but so if you have a program that will, print out a butterfly, then that would be perfect. So that way you, in other words, you print that out, that butterfly out, that becomes your pattern. Okay, now I use trace paper when I am going to make a pattern. I make a pattern, what I call a pattern, on the copy paper, obviously, and you can use that as a pattern. But I prefer taking this and transferring it over onto this trace paper. And the reason for, of course you'll learn this as you look at my videos, but when you lay this trace paper on your project, you're able to really visually see your project underneath there. And so you're getting a really good feel of how this is going to look. When you use copy paper as a pattern and lay this on your project, well then you're not seeing underneath, you know, you're not, your pattern, your painting underneath is not showing through. So you're really not getting a good feel of how this is going to look once it's applied. But again, I have used just the copy paper before and laid it on the surface, transferred it on, and we were good to go. So either way, okay, when you are applying a pattern, and like I said in my previous video, when you want to apply words or font to something, you can use vinyl. If you have a vinyl machine, you can cut it out, put vinyl on there, and I've seen that done and it looks great. But I prefer to paint, so I paint my letters in, and this really comes in handy, having a program that you can print things out. Okay, next you will need what is called graphite paper. Graphite paper is like back in the olden day when they had carbon paper, and I think they still do. It's similar to that. It will transfer your pattern. But you don't want to use carbon paper because it is extremely hard for acrylic paint to cover that carbon ink or that carbon paper. But on graphite paper, it's very similar to a chalk. This is a chalky side. It doesn't rub off on your fingers, but it's graphite. But again, it's similar to chalk. There's the plain side that you don't use, and then there's the darker side that you do use. This gets laid, the darker side, on your project. All right, so when you're wanting to transfer this word on your project, then what you would do is, sorry, I have a fan going. It's warm. And I have cats. Okay, then you're going to take that project, like I did with this welcome sign. You're going to lay the shiny side down. You're going to lay your pattern on top. You're going to take your stylus or a pencil, either one will work. And just in case you hadn't seen the recent video, you take your stylus and you go over the lettering. When you go over that lettering, it will show up on your board. And then you paint it in. Once you see it done, you're like, oh my gosh, that's so simple. And there's times where I used to see people's projects and think, oh, how do they do that? Well, once you see it done, it's like, oh, that's how they do it. Okay, so back to the graphite paper. It would be great if you have at least a few sheets of this dark color. It can either be dark gray or black. And then have a few sheets of the beige color. Let's see, I had one handy here a minute ago. And the beige is great to use on dark surfaces. Obviously, you'll see it, it'll show up. Here's the wrong side. here's the right side. This right side is what goes on your painted project. But you would want to use the light color on, let's say you had a background that's black or dark purple or dark navy blue. This is gonna, the white or off-white is gonna show up really well in applying your font on that painted project. If your project is a light color background, very similar to my grapes, this is a, I'd say, light to medium background. And I could have used white and it would have shown up okay, but black is even better. Plus I knew I was going to do the letters when I painted them in. I knew I was going to use a dark color of paint, so it covers the black lines that the graphite paper makes. I sure hope that makes sense. Let me know in the comments if I need to slow down a little bit. Okay, so graphite paper and then a tablet of trace paper, if that's the route you're gonna go. Trace paper is great. And you don't have to have all this stuff. If you decide you just wanna learn how to paint and blend and shade and do highlights, that works too. You don't have to add words to any of your stuff that, if I do it. And then of course, a tablet of trace paper comes in handy as well. You see this is where I keep all my graphites and all my patterns that I've used over the years. Things that I didn't want to freehand. They might have been an order and they needed to be exact because the person obviously saw something that I had posted and they wanted that. So I try really hard to give them that. So I use a pattern. Okay, so that covers that and the brushes. Now paint. Oh my goodness, I love paint. Oh, can you tell? Acrylic paint is awesome, but it does dry very quickly. Some of the best paints I've ever used is Deco Art Traditions. Love, 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 love this paint. Another paint that I enjoy very much is by Delta, is Ceramicoat. It's very good paint. Now, I do, because my grandkids come over and we play in the paints a lot. They play with all kinds. I try to put my really good stuff aside, but sometimes it doesn't work. But there is, you know, this good old paint here that you can get dirt cheap. And it's okay for kids to play with, or anyone, if you're gonna play with paints for a while that day. But honestly, it does not blend well. So just heads up. It's okay if I want to add this color white to one of my good paints, and I can still blend good. But if I am working with only this kind of paint, it is a battle to get it to blend well. Of course, you have to water the paint down a lot, and yet even after you do that and get it, you know, almost like watered down gravy, you've got it at a good state that you can blend. Something about the pigments or however they make this type of paint, it just does not blend well for me. But for easygoing projects, yeah, I'd go with it. Folk Art is another good paint. It blends very well as well. So those are some of the ones that I really enjoy. The other thing is Joe Sonia. They have a paint that's good too. They have a glaze here that I just love to no ends. And they have what's called a paint retarder, or a retarder medium. These are medium, paint mediums, that's what they call. Anything that is a part of the paint world that aids to your paint, either slowing the drying time of your paint, which is the retarder medium. It enhances your paint, and we can discuss this further in next videos. And But these are just what they call paint mediums. And there's plenty of them out there. There's all kinds. I can tell you this much. This off-brand, I got it from Hobby Lobby. And Crafter's Collection is what it's called. Dirt cheap, and it blends extremely well. I like it, like it, like it. So there's another idea for you. I just use a regular old cup. Kind of looks interesting, doesn't it? Anyway, I just use a cup to rinse my brushes. The rule of thumb is never, never, never leave a brush in the cup. Rinse it, wipe it off, and put it down. Now this brush is in there because it's what I called a bad brush. It's gone bad totally. And I use it just to stir my paints together. So it doesn't hurt if it sits in there. But the rest of the paint brushes, you just wash them off, dry them on your paper towel, and then lay them flat. Or lay them in a cup, you know, with the bristles up. Because if you lay, now these, if they lay in my, let's say I got in a big hurry and left them in my cup of water and they bend a little bit, sometimes they'll recover from that. Rinse them off, wash them, you know, kind of reshape them with your fingers and then lay them flat and hopefully they'll recover. Sometimes they do, sometimes they won't. Sometimes you'll have a permanent bend. And that is not fun to have on your nice round brush. But now these little thin ones, they rarely recover at all if they've been left in water. So you just rinse, it just takes seconds. Rinse, dry them off, lay them flat, or put them in a cup right side up. Now as far as the palette is concerned, there's tons of palettes out there. One of my favorite palettes from way back when was a big, huge yellow, I think a yellow one, and it had a lid on it. Well, when you open it up, there's a nice skinny sponge in there. And what you would do is wet that sponge, wring it out just slightly. You want it damp, really damp. Leave that sponge there, and then you use what's called a palette paper on top. And then you put your paint puddles, you know, on top of it and paint. Well, the whole concept is excellent because it would keep your paints wet for a little while longer than what a styrofoam plate does. And I used it for years, and then when you get done with it, you put that tight, airtight lid on it and stick it in the refrigerator. And it would keep for weeks. It was amazing. But over time, I got out of the habit of using it. And so my go-to is styrofoam plates, and they work fine for me. And when I've had classes here in my house, they worked fine. When the kiddos come to play, they work fine. Anyway, styrofoam plates. I do prefer the Hefty brand. The thin, skinny, off brands, it's totally up to you if that's what you want to use. They just, for me, they move around a lot. They're so lightweight, they move around. So when I'm messing with my palette and my brush with one hand, I'm like chasing that around. You'll find with Hefty, it doesn't happen as much. They're a little bit heavier body plate. When I'm through painting, I can take another plate, put it on top, but you always want to be sure to put something heavy on top so you get a decent seal and it keeps your paints wet at least until the next day. Or you can take it a little bit further and use a Ziploc bag as well. You would put the lid on your palette, put it in the Ziploc bag, close it up, and let it sit on your table, work table. It'll hold up, and of course put something heavy on it as well to keep that seal. So in the plastic bag, a lid on top, and something heavy on top as well, and it'll keep for a couple days sitting on your table. Or put it in the refrigerator with something on top, and it will keep it for almost a week, all your paint colors that you have blended together. So that's only if you haven't finished the project and you don't want to have to remix all your colors again. Then putting it in a bag, putting it in the refrigerator, that really helps. All right. Of course, a basic, a ruler always comes in handy to have. What else? And as far as colors of paints, you know, it's up to you what you want to do on that. But in other words, you only really need one green. That's it, one green. Like for instance, and you only need like one yellow. You only need one brown, one black, obviously, one dark blue. Where else? Now I have to say, I go ahead and bite it off and get a turquoise, because I can't always blend all my colors together to get the turquoise that I'm looking for. So I do buy turquoise. But everything else, in other words, you can make your colors from this. And a good red, and of course always a good white. There's so many colors that you can make from this. You don't have to buy 5 different shades of green. There's just, it's up to you. You want to do that, go right ahead. But you don't have to, is all I'm saying. Same thing with brown. They've got so many browns out there. You don't have to buy that many. You just buy one good deep color brown. Same thing, a deep color green, a nice yellow, a good red, something that is like a pure red, because this is to me like a pure red, and I can turn it to a shade of pink. I can turn it all different directions. I can make it into a burgundy. I can put more yellow and orange in it, and you'll get that almost tangerine color, reddish tangerine, real pretty color. So just a good red, good dark blue, a black, maybe a turquoise, white, brown, yellow. What am I missing? Oh, purple. Well, now you can make, you can make purple with blue and red, but honestly, I love that purple. That is beautiful. And if I could pronounce it right, it is Deco Art Traditions acrylic paint, and it is dioxan. Okay, somebody correct me here. Purple. It is a rich, gorgeous purple, and I can lighten it with white, and I can get a lavender color. I can add red to it, and I can get a beautiful magenta. A whole lot of red and very little purple, and you get magenta, and so on. Okay, I think that's it for now. Please like and subscribe. It really helps my channel out. And I will be back on hopefully this evening or by tomorrow evening to start a new project. Y'all have a good evening.